Hey everyone, and welcome back. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dives like this one. So, something funny happened to me yesterday. I was
Wow.
talking to a friend, and they were telling me all about how they want to work in Bali.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, like palm trees, beaches, the whole tropical paradise thing.
I get it.
It got me wondering, like, is that even possible?
Yeah.
Can you just, pick up your life and work from Bali?
I mean, it's a pretty popular dream. And actually, it's not just a dream anymore.
Really?
Yeah, more and more people are working remotely from these amazing places all over the world.
You're right. And Bali just seems to be at the top of everyone's list.
Right.
But, like, what makes it so special for remote work? I mean, there are lots of beautiful places you could go to.
Well, one thing is that Bali has this mix of natural beauty and affordability.
Yeah.
So think about it. Beautiful beaches, rice paddies, and this really vibrant culture.
Yeah,
And you don't have to spend a ton of money.
that's so true. My friend was telling me how cheap rent and food are in Bali compared to big cities. It's like
Exactly.
you can afford to live well and enjoy life there.
Exactly. That's a big reason people go.
Yeah.
Plus, Bali has a really strong digital nomad community.
Oh, cool.
You're not alone. Like, there's co-working spaces, events, and chances to meet other people doing the same thing.
Okay, so there's affordability and the community aspect.
Right.
But what about the work itself? What kinds of jobs are people doing in Bali?
Well, we did a deep dive into this podcast called Slow English Story, and they were talking about how a lot of people in tech, marketing, and design are working remotely from Bali.
So basically anything you can do online, which is like a lot these days.
Exactly, and that's where the term digital nomad comes in.
Oh, right.
These are people who can use technology to work remotely and, travel and live in different places.
That sounds amazing. But I bet some listeners are thinking, like, that's great for tech people, but what about me? What if you don't already have an online job?
Yeah, they talked about that on the podcast too. They were saying some people go to Bali to freelance, teaching English online, or even start their own small businesses.
Oh, wow.
There are a lot of opportunities if you're creative.
They even mentioned a woman who makes handmade jewelry in Bali and sells it online.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that you don't have to be limited by your current job or skills.
Right?
You can learn new things, adapt, and make it work. Bali seems to attract people who are willing to try new things.
That's inspiring. It makes me wonder if there are other paths we haven't even considered. Maybe Bali could even inspire people to discover new passions and careers they didn't know they had.
That's a great point. It's not just about the location, but the change in your mindset when you're in a new place, surrounded by new people and possibilities.
Yeah,
But let's get back to practical stuff for now.
I'll be sure.
One thing I know some people worry about is the language barrier.
Uh-huh.
What if you don't speak perfect English? Is that a deal breaker for working in Bali?
That's a good question,
Yeah.
especially since a lot of our listeners are learning English.
Right.
What did the podcast say about that?
Well, they reassured listeners that while English is important for communication, perfect fluency isn't totally necessary.
Okay.
English is widely spoken in Bali, especially in the tourist areas and among expats.
So don't let fear of language hold you back.
Yeah,
Plus, being around English speakers could actually help you improve faster.
exactly. And who knows, you might even learn some Indonesian along the way.
I'm already feeling more confident about my Indonesian.
Yeah,
Just kidding. But seriously, this is starting to sound really appealing.
Yeah.
So, what were some of the key takeaways from the podcast? What advice did they give to people who are seriously considering working in Bali?
Well, they stressed finding an online job or freelance opportunity that uses your skills and interests. And they also talked about the importance of connecting with the community. Joining a co-working space or an online group can make a huge difference in terms of feeling supported and finding your footing.
Makes sense. And of course, they said to actually enjoy the experience.
Oh, definitely.
Working in Bali isn't just about getting things done. It's about the lifestyle, exploring the culture, and finding that work-life balance we all want.
That's so important. It's about creating a life that feels both purposeful and enjoyable.
I think this deep dive is already inspiring a lot of people to rethink their work and life choices. What do you say we take a closer look at some of the practical steps involved in making this dream a reality?
Absolutely. Let's dive into the details of actually moving to Bali. All right, so let's say someone's listening and thinking, okay, I'm in. Bali, here I come.
Yeah,
What are the first steps to make it happen?
that's the big question, right? Like, it's nice to think about palm trees and co-working spaces, but how do you actually do it?
Well, the podcast we looked at, Slow English Story, they said research and planning are key. It's not something you just jump into.
That's true. You don't want to be stuck in paradise without a plan.
Exactly.
So where do you even begin?
First, you got to make sure you can legally work in Bali.
Okay.
So that means looking into visa requirements and making sure you're good to go.
Visas. Okay. That sounds kind of complicated.
Yeah,
What kind of visa do you need for working remotely in Bali?
there are a few options, but the one most digital nomads use is called a sociocultural visa.
Okay.
It lets you stay for 60 days, and you can extend it up to 6 months.
6 months in Bali. That's pretty good. Enough time to get settled in and experience the island. But what happens after 6 months? Can you stay longer?
If you want to stay longer than 6 months, you can apply for a business visa.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's a little trickier.
Yeah,
It usually means you need a local sponsor or you have to set up a company in Bali.
got it. So visas are really important. What else should you be thinking about when planning?
The Slow English Story hosts recommended booking some temporary accommodation before you go,
Okay.
even if it's just for a week or two,
Yeah.
just so you have a place while you figure out the longer term.
That makes sense. Takes the pressure off those first few days. Did they mention any types of places that are popular with digital nomads?
They talked about guest houses, homestays, and co-living spaces as good options.
Oh, cool.
Guest houses and homestays can be really affordable,
Yeah.
and they give you more of a local experience.
I love that, staying in a traditional Balinese home.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. And then co-living spaces are great for meeting other digital nomads
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
and, building that sense of community.
Yeah.
Plus, they often have everything you need, like high-speed internet and co-working areas,
That sounds like a good choice, especially if you're by yourself and want to meet people.
right?
So you've got your visa, you found a place to stay. What's next?
Well, now it's time to think about actually working remotely.
Hmm.
And the number one thing for any digital nomad is
Reliable internet. Got to have that right. You can't work online if you can't get online.
exactly. Luckily, Bali has pretty good internet these days, especially in the digital nomad hotspots like Canggu and Ubud.
Okay, good.
But it's always smart to double check before you commit to a place.
Good advice. What about co-working spaces? Are those a good option for reliable internet and a productive work environment?
Oh, for sure. Co-working spaces are really popular in Bali,
Yeah,
and for good reason.
yeah.
They have high-speed internet, comfy workspaces, and a great community vibe.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of them have extra stuff like workshops, social events, even yoga classes.
Whoa, yoga classes at a co-working space.
Yeah.
That's next level work-life balance.
It's the Bali lifestyle, but of course, no place is perfect. There are some challenges you should be ready for before you head to paradise.
Okay, let's talk about the not so sunny side of Bali.
Okay.
What are some things people should be prepared for?
One thing the Slow English Story host talked about is culture shock.
Uh-huh.
Bali's culture is different from a lot of Western countries, and it can take time to adjust.
That's true. I mean, you're going to find different customs, traditions, and ways of doing things.
Exactly. Like even things like how people communicate, social etiquette, even traffic can be different.
Yeah,
It's important to go with an open mind and be willing to learn and adapt.
that's great advice. Embrace the differences and learn from them. What about the language barrier? We talked before about how English is widely spoken in Bali,
Yeah.
but is it enough to get by?
You can definitely manage in a lot of situations with English.
Okay.
But it's always a good idea to learn a few basic Indonesian phrases.
Oh, yeah?
It shows respect for their culture,
Yeah,
and it can make everyday things go a lot smoother.
that's true. Even learning to say hello and thank you can go a long way.
Totally. And you'll see that the Balinese people are super friendly and welcoming.
Yeah.
They'll appreciate you trying to speak their language.
So it sounds like the keys to dealing with these challenges are flexibility, open-mindedness, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. And a sense of humor can't hurt either. The Slow English Story podcast actually told a funny story about.
Ah, okay, so before we finish up, I want to go back to something Slow English Story talked about.
Oh, yeah?
It was really interesting.
Okay.
They said that working in Bali isn't just about, like, changing your view. It's a chance to grow and change as a person.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they talked about how Bali can help you discover yourself.
Right.
Like, it's a place to go outside your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
challenge your beliefs, and maybe even find passions and talents you never knew you had.
I like that.
Makes sense, right? When you're in a new place with a different culture, you're always learning and changing.
Right.
It makes you grow in ways you didn't expect.
Yeah, they gave a great example in the podcast.
Oh, what was it?
They talked about someone who went to Bali thinking they'd just focus on their freelance work.
Huh.
But then they got involved with local community projects and found they were passionate about helping the environment.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like Bali opened up a whole new world. It makes you wonder what we all have inside us just waiting to come out.
Totally. It reminds us that sometimes a change of scenery is what we need to shake things up
Yeah.
and to see ourselves and the world differently.
But let's be real, not everyone who goes to Bali is going to have some big revelation.
Right, of
Some
course.
people might just want to enjoy the beaches and get a tan.
Exactly. But even small changes in how we see things can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Maybe you learn to balance work and life better,
Right.
or you start to appreciate different cultures more,
Uh-huh.
or maybe you just realize there's more than one way to be happy and have a good life.
That's so true. Sometimes just breaking out of our routines and trying something new can open us up to things we hadn't thought of before.
Exactly. And even if you decide Bali's not for you, this whole conversation hopefully gave you some ideas and encouraged you to think differently about your work and your life.
I think that's what's so great about the deep dive.
Right.
It's about exploring different views and possibilities and helping our listeners make their own choices.
Couldn't have said it better.
So, to wrap up our deep dive into working in Bali, I think the main thing is that deciding to move there or not is a personal choice.
Definitely.
It's about looking at the good and bad, figuring out what you need and want, and seeing if this lifestyle matches your future plans.
Right. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's about discovering yourself.
Exactly. And even if you decide Bali's not right for you, just thinking about it can be really helpful.
It can. It broadens your horizons and shows you new things are possible.
So well said. This deep dive has been amazing. We
Yeah.
talked about why Bali is so attractive, the steps to move there, the challenges, and how it can change you as a person.
Yeah, it's been great. It reminds us there's more than one way to live and work, and sometimes all it takes is some bravery and curiosity to make a life that's truly yours.
And if this conversation made you think, and maybe you're even a little interested in working from paradise, I say go for it. Do some research, ask questions, and most importantly, listen to your gut.
You never know where you'll end up if you're open to new things.
A huge thank you to the Slow English Story podcast for giving us the idea for this deep dive. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cool stuff like this.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living your best life.
Thanks for joining the conversation here at Kaz English. We hope you found it fun and informative. Don't forget to check out kazapp.uk. That's kazapp.uk for more tips, resources, and interactive practice. Keep exploring, keep chatting, and we'll catch up with you again soon.